What's one book that changed your life? Number one is really kind of cheating. All right. So I've got two. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it's the cash flow quadrant. Now, it's not really cheating because if you ask Robert Kiyosaki, one of my very first mentors that I looked up to when I started down this sort of journey towards leadership and personal development and financial management, he actually wrote that book together. So it was one book at the beginning, and then he ended up breaking it up into two because the publisher told him it was too long. It was too much. I actually read that while I was in recovery from getting hit by that IED while I was in Iraq. It was a catalyst, it was a turning point where I learned about concepts like other people's money. I learned about concepts like actually financial budgeting. I learned about different, the way that rich people teach their kids that I didn't have access to. I mean, my parents weren't rich, so I didn't have access to that kind of mindset, that kind of table talk, right? The dinner table talk about money that rich people use. So that was something that really shifted in me. And that was the first book that I read as an adult, right? That wasn't a part of some kind of curriculum, wasn't a part of like a course or something. So, or in college. So that's where I picked that book up. I read that, and that started me on this road. It opened up something that I'd never been taught about money. Okay? We had never learned, like my parents weren't rich, right? So I never had a rich dad, right? I had people that thought, like the poor dad mentality, right? I had people that thought, and that's the way we're all taught, right? We're taught as educators, we're taught by teachers and parents and things like that. If you didn't learn about money from someone with money, then, you're dealing with someone that has sort of that poor mindset. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, let me tap into my rich dad and listen to him and listen to sort of the difference in shift in perspective on how to look at money, how to look at assets versus liabilities, how to look at these things. And then of course, the next step of that, as you define assets and liabilities, expenses, right, and income. So looking at a financial statement, once you know how to actually look at that and read that, the next piece is to learn about the cash flow quadrant, right? So you have the E, which is employee, you have the S, which is going to be your self-employed, then you got your I, which is investor, and then B, which is business owner. So look at breaking those down and how your income's coming in and what category you want to be paid in and paid out. It was groundbreaking for me. It really changed my mind and helped me look at entrepreneurship entirely differently. So those books really changed my life. Next up, Take Charge of Your Life by Jim Rohn. Wow. That was an incredible book. It really encouraged you to stop being a victim. It helps your brain and your frame shift to really, you could substitute any one of Jim Rohn's books, right? Because he talks about the same stuff in every book, but it's so cool, right? So you got Challenge to Succeed. You've got Take Charge of Your Life, 5 major pieces of the life puzzle. You can substitute any one of those books in there, but I promise you, it's the same messaging, right? It's about philosophy. It's about mindset, but it takes a more intellectual approach, right? A lot of people call Jim Rohn the business philosopher, and that's very much what he is. He's like a Socrates of business and personal development. He actually mentored Tony Robbins of all people, right? So this is like the grandfather of personal development, and his books are absolutely incredible. But I started with Challenge to Succeed, and I thought that it was a big game changer for me in terms of just shifting my mind and who I hold accountable, who's responsible for the things that happen to me. Guess what? It's me. So that's a great frame shift. How to Win Friends and Influence People. This was a game changer, and I read this one every single year. So there's a few books that I read every single January, and this is one of them. So that book is going to show you how to influence people, right? How to win friends. So if you're a leader in any capacity, or you want to be a leader, you want people to follow you, whether you're in sales or entrepreneurship or leading a team or whatever it looks like, do you think that it would be helpful to learn how to win friends and how to influence people? Of course. Why wouldn't you get the book on that? So a lot of great stuff that got out of that, how to deal on a day-to-day with your interactions with people so that people naturally sort of lean towards you. The Ultimate Sales Machine. Now, I don't like the title of this book. I think the title is a little bit misleading, but it is an incredible book either way. So it's split up into really kind of 2 sections. One of them is about sales, and there's great sales training in that book, but the more valuable part is actually about productivity and efficiency and management. That's where I really got a lot out of this book. And it's mainly because when I read this book, I was going through a tough season, right? I just stepped over into my role as the broker for all of EXP Texas. So I had about 6,000 6,000, 7,000 agents that my name were on the bottom of every single one of their contracts, right? And I'm the name that was their sponsoring broker for all 7,000 agents. My gosh, I had never been so overwhelmed. I had never been so frustrated, right? Underwater. And a mentor of mine gave me this book, and it was just absolutely incredible. It was a game changer for me and taught me how to look at everything as a system. By the way, if you have to do anything more than once, you should have a system for it. That second time you do it, you should say, hey, why am I doing this twice? What system can I put in play that would either delegate this or remove this from my plate or automate it, right? So those are the things that you want to start thinking through. And I love that book because it shows you how to start systematizing every part of your life, particularly as it pertains to business. Unleash the power within. So I talked already about Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn is freaking amazing. And I said that Jim Rohn actually mentored a young guy named Tony Robbins. Okay, Tony Robbins wrote this book. It is absolutely incredible. It's again shaking those bonds, shaking those shackles off. Speaks to me personally because he has a story in there about Marines, and y'all know I'm a Marine. So he talks about that and how high of a standard that Marines hold themselves to while they are in boot camp, right? And while they're in the Marine Corps, there's a super high standard. And then a lot of times they come out of that and then they lower that standard. Now they live like a normal civilian, a normal person. And so he says, hey, what would happen if you maintain that same standard through the rest of your life? Right. So that was something that really sparked with me. And you go through the rest of the book and it's really actionable on mindset and how to take control of your mind. You're stronger than you think you are, I promise you. So in that book helps you to realize that. Profit first. Pay yourself like someone that actually owns a business, that is actually the CEO of that business. So I made the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, and especially a lot of real estate agents. They don't really treat their business like a business, not like a Fortune 500 company. They don't treat themselves like a CEO that's running a real estate company. And what this book taught me to do is actually shift my framework, shift my mindset around that, and go from sort of just hunting and eating, hunter-gatherer mode as a realtor, where I'm out there just selling houses for commission and then pay the bills with it. This book really teaches you to put the profit first, how to allocate certain percentages for all the income that comes in, and be strategic in that so that you don't have these feast and famine seasons through your real estate cycle, because we all know what it's like. Real estate's feast or famine. 1 month you got 10, 15 deals, maybe 20, maybe more deals in a month. Then the next month you could have a couple, right? And it's this constant sort of up and down nature of real estate. It can make budgeting, it can make planning for expenses and things like that can make it really challenging if you don't have a great framework, a great system. So I found the profit first system to be amazing. You can never go broke, that was my number one objective in the beginning, was like, hey, just don't go broke. If we don't go broke, we'll probably be all right. And so that was where I started. But again, this system allows you to sort of do exactly that, to structure yourself up for success long-term and to have a sustainable, profitable real estate business, unlike the vast majority of real estate agents that are out there. And I quickly realized that if I had a profitable business, I could outlast, I could outgrow, I could outspend, I could outdo pretty much everything and be super competitive in my market. And then finally, last but not least, I'm going to cheat here, right? I'm going to actually say 3 books. Technically, I guess it's not cheating because they're all one book, which is the Bible. But out of that one book, the Bible, you've got 66 smaller books that are in there, okay? So I'm going to just pick 3 of them. I'm not cheating. I'm going to pick 3 and say that Psalms, Proverbs, and then the book of Mark, okay? Those 3, the Gospel of Mark, those 3 are going to be, again, if you talk about books that I read every single year, I read those every single year. Why? You're talking about the wisdom of ages, of eons that is sort of encapsulated into these few books. I highly recommend reading those 3 books every single year. Why? Every time you read, you get a new revelation, a new mindset. And again, this is the wisdom of thousands of years, right? And so again, whether you're a believer or not, I'm not here to convince anybody. You do what you want, believe in what you believe in. But even if you were only looking at just the wisdom that's encapsulated in these books, if you're only looking at that, right? Now, personally, I believe that the wisdom is beyond that, but let's just say, right, people go back and they read Sun Tzu, right, Art of War. They go back and read Socrates. They go back and read Plato. They go back and read all the stuff, but they don't go back even further in time and look at some of the stuff that is written in these ancient books on Proverbs that apply directly to your business today, on mindset, on sort of understanding what this whole thing is about, right? So I highly recommend those 3 books, again, every single year. Where did I leave off the list? Drop it in the comment section.